What's going on, conquistadors? It is Scotty, the Chunky Spaniard. Welcome back to Brown Like Me, and we are doing another cool intro for day 3. Boom! Wednesday of back to school madness, craziness. This is my classroom behind me, and now for the cool intro. I showed this already. Millennium Falcon. Crazy stuff in my classroom. Supposed to be Ray, but the backlight. Oh, there we go. Be a force for good. Homework whiteboard. Even though the kids never write down their stuff. Cool posters right left on our arms. What's going on, conquistadors? It is Scotty, the Chunky Spaniard. Welcome back to Round Like Me. And today we are starting day number 3 of our little experiment of talking about back to school. And in today's episode, we're going to talk about how I survived my freshman year of high school. Now, my freshman year of high school, I shockingly lived in the same area that I had lived in the 3 previous years. So I went from middle school, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, to my freshman year of high school with pretty much the same kids. And luckily, I had my best friend Noah that moved up with me. And we were best buds from the moment we started 6th grade. We were both the 2 smallest kids in the school, these little brown boys that could tan up really nice. I don't know, something about getting older, your melanin doesn't work as well, and I don't brown up like I used to, like a good hash brown. Changed little change of camera angle there for a second. That space behind me, by the way, right next to Steph, whoa, right there, it's reserved for my new KD big head that's coming in. So, if you see that space for now, it'll be filled in soon. But my freshman year of high school, so moved up with Noah. Luckily, Noah had an older sister named Amber, and she was a junior when we got up there. So we already had an upper grader kind of in our corner. So Amber was kind of like someone that helped us kind of learn the lay of the land as far as high school was concerned. But high school was still very scary. I was thrown into a math class, a higher level math class with some sophomores and juniors. The only reason I survived that class, I remember there's one kid, Wayne's World had just come out. There was one kid that always wore Wayne's World stuff, and he thought he was so funny. He always had the hat. And this is gonna be like more of reminiscing time than anything for me. But one of the varsity cheerleaders that was in the class, I know, she asked me for help. And I was basically like her tutor as a freshman, and so she helped me survive math because the other upper grade kids wouldn't mess with me in class because this really attractive cheerleader was totally in my corner. I was the worst in high school and college, well, probably and beyond until I met my wife, about picking up the signals when a girl liked you. I had no idea. This cheerleader gave me her picture, her school picture with her name on it, her phone number on the back, and I was like, oh, that's very nice. I was an idiot when it came to that kind of stuff. But my freshman year of high school, how did I survive? I had friends in certain classes. I learned to adapt. I was very quiet at the time. I wasn't yet a class clown. And there was one other thing that helped me survive my freshman year of high school, and it was this right here. Not this exact one, but this is a hacky sack. And you're like, how did a hacky sack help you survive high school? During lunchtime was kind of this just chaotic mess where everybody's walking around, everybody's getting French fries and Little Caesars, and we had a Little Caesars on campus at our high school down in San Diego. And it can be very overwhelming coming from a small junior high to a high school that was very, very large. And Noah and I found this group of guys over back off the kind of little off the beaten path that played hacky sack. And we had played some hacky sack in junior high, in middle school, and we were like, let's just get in on that. And so these guys were totally welcoming, and I happened to have a hacky sack. Oh no, this is what happened. We jumped in one time to play hacky sack, and one of the guys kicked it too high, and it went on the roof. And so we lost our hacky sack. And it was another guy's hacky sack, and he's like, oh, well, whatever. And I was like, oh, I have a couple of those at home. And they're like, well, bring them. And so instantly, I was in. And we would play hacky sack at lunch. And it doesn't seem like much, but that became a cool group of friends that we would sit and just talk and play hacky sack and talk about classes and talk about teachers and ultimately talk about music. The hacky sack helped me survive lunchtime. I was also in band. I played saxophone for junior high, high school, and college. And so I had a separate group of friends in band. And our band was different than kind of what bands are now. Our band, we had like the starting varsity shortstop for the high school baseball team in our band. We had a bunch of other athletes in the band. I played basketball. And it wasn't just kids that were just focused specifically on music. These kids were very well-rounded, round like me. And so that was another group that helped me survive in high school, my freshman year of high school. And my buddy Russ, I made another good friend named Russ, and he would come play hacky sack. And so then our worlds kind of merged where my best friend from middle school, Noah, became friends with my buddy Russ. And so I had friends outside of that because Noah wasn't in band. Noah was just he just kind of did his own thing. And so hacky sack was that one unifying thing that we all had, plus music. All of us were really into still, and this was like early 90s, but we were still into Guns N' Roses, Appetite for Destruction, and Metallica's Black Album. And then Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 came out, and we would geek out on that and eat. It's just like the commercials. We'd listen to Use Your Illusion 1 and 2 on cassette, eat Totino's Pizza Rolls, and play video games on the Nintendo. It was crazy. That was what got me through my freshman year of high school. And then learning how to adapt to different classes. One situation one time, I got super sick in biology, I remember, and I was about to throw up. And there's this really cute girl that I really liked in that class. And I actually had to go tell the teacher. It was the most nerve-wracking thing ever that I felt like I was going to be sick. And it was the one and only time I got picked up from high school to get taken to the doctor. And luckily, my mom picked me up when she did, because by the time we got to the doctor's office, I like spewed everywhere. It was gross. And I was super, super sick. The other story that I have from freshman year of high school is I was the quiet kid. I wasn't the class clown, but that's also when the class clowns started coming out. I remember one day, it was a gorgeous San Diego afternoon. I'm in my last class. It was a geography class. And it was this really small classroom, and the desks were all at these angles, and I picked the desk, because you could kind of sit anywhere you wanted. I picked the desk that was right by the door, so I could sit and lean back and kind of just look out and long to be outside skateboarding. And we're talking about South America and Latin countries, and the teacher was asking the class, like, what are these Latin countries known for, and and people are saying like food and dancing and other things like that. And I was a big fan of the show In Living Color. In Living Color, huge influence on me comedically, because Jim Carrey was on there. David Alan Grier, the Wayans brothers. This is before Sean and Marlon were big. Like, I think Sean was like the DJ. J-Lo was a fly girl on there. This is before J-Lo was big. But In Living Color was a huge cultural influence and comedic influence on me, because I thought they were so cool and so funny. And I loved that show. And so I used to do Mike Tyson impressions, and before my voice changed, and all sorts of other impressions. I dressed up as Fire Marshal Bill one year for Halloween, And if you don't know what I'm talking about, you need to go back and watch In Living Color, because every character was absolutely amazing. Damon Wayans, I mean, it was the whole Wayans family. Kim, Keenan Ivory Wayans, Sean, Marlon, Damon. Plus you had all these other comedic actors. And like I said, Jamie Foxx was on there, and who we now know is like this multi-talented genius. But I was sitting in this class, back to the geography class, and we're sitting there and all these kids are listening to all these things about Latin American countries. And under my breath, as I'm looking outside and the teacher's asking questions, under my breath, she's like, what else are these Latin countries known for? And I was like, they're known for love, right? Kind of softly. It was the Antonio Banderas, like, they're known for love. And the teacher heard it. Talk about one of the scariest moments ever. The teacher's like, what was that? And I was like, okay, that probably wasn't me. Don't say anything. Don't move. And I just sat there, and she's looking right at me, and I'm like, what? And she's like, what did you just say? And I'm like, oh, crud. Because I was the quiet one. I was the one that never got called out. I was probably going to get laughed at, and I did not want to make, a spectacle of myself. And she's like, no, I'd like you to say it again. And I'm like, and so this was like the first big moment of courage for me in school. And I totally remember it. And she's like, and say it the way you said it. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And she's like, say it. What are they known for? And I go, they're known for love. And the entire class just dies laughing. And not laughing at me, but laughing at the way I said it. And like, this little dude is funny. And I was like, oh. It's like the very first time you get a laugh. It's kind of like that little kid. If you've ever been around a little kid that does something silly and you laugh, I mean, they do it a million more times. I didn't do the love thing over and over and over again, but I realized in that class, I've talked about navigating classes, I realized in that class I could be more of myself and put more of myself out there, and people were accepting of the humor, and I realized that humor does break down a lot of walls. And so I remember that class being a blast after that. After that, it kind of broke the seal and everything was great. But freshman year of high school, it was tough. It's scary going onto a giant campus because you have these seniors that know what they're doing and you have no clue what you're doing. And you're just trying to make it to your next class on time so you don't get in trouble. Or at least I was, because I was worried about my parents and what they would say. And then I have one more story for this. It's about taking risks, and I did not take a risk in this moment. Amber found out that because of Noah, thanks Noah, Amber, Noah's older sister, found out that I had this crush on this varsity volleyball player who was also a junior, and she was gorgeous. I've always had a thing for blondes. She was tall and blonde, and she went and told this girl, like, hey, my best friend's buddy really has a big crush on you. And she wanted to meet me. She's like, oh, I want to meet him. And I was like, what? And she's like, would you meet her? I'm like, sure. Thinking to myself, no way. This little guy is going to go talk to this varsity volleyball player that's probably got 6 to 8 inches height on me. Probably not. And so she's like, yeah, meet me at the Little Caesars at lunchtime on whatever day. And I was like, cool. I never showed up. I mean, it could have turned into, I imagine it like something out of a movie where she brought all of her friends and all of her guy friends to just laugh at me. But what if it hadn't been the case? I mean, and if they had laughed at me, what would have been the big deal? Yeah, it kind of would have been soul crushing at the moment, but I would have lived and I would have survived and I would have learned from it. But I didn't go. And for the longest time, I regretted it. Because I was like, that was another chance for me to step up and show who I was as a person. So if you're going into freshman year, find that group of friends that maybe you have something in common with. It could be a common bond with music. It could be a common bond with something else. For me, it was a group of guys that played hacky sack. A bunch of skater dudes that just kicked around a little bean-filled ball at lunchtime. I was also involved in band, and that helped me survive and kind of make some other friends. I got involved in basketball, and and then just kind of started talking to people. Were there jerks? Yes, there were jerks. My parents, this is right before we moved to Oregon, my parents were up looking for a house in Oregon. They brought me back a Portland Trailblazers hat that I thought was so cool. They got in Oregon. And I remember I wore it to school one day, and that same day it got stolen in my afternoon health class. And I went to the teacher before the bell rang, and I'm like, my hat's stolen, no one's saying they got it. Teacher didn't do anything about it. And, you learn, you live and you learn. And there's always going to be bullies, there's always going to be jerks, but you learn to survive, and you learn from these mistakes. And so freshman year of high school, how to survive: find a group of friends, find a common interest, learn who to hang out with and who to stay away from. Our band, our percussion group were scary. They wore all black. I remember our percussionists wore all black, big time metalheads. And they were the guys that would lock you in a bass drum case if you were mouthing off, kind of to teach you a lesson. And this was before they had all these laws in place where you'd get expelled for doing these kinds of things. I mean, there were kids that got tossed in the garbage can. There was a kid that got duct taped. He got duct taped to the light pole in the parking lot in his chonies, well, for everyone to see. And, we had other kids that had big mouths, and you learn from those kids. Don't have a big mouth because there are going to be some repercussions. But you learn to kind of like who to steer clear of, who to hang out with, who to kind of become friends with, who to be cool with. And it doesn't always work out, but high school is that time where you start to learn who you really are. Junior high, middle school, you're trying to survive and just adapt to the environment. High school is where you learn who you really are and you branch out as a person. And then college, it's like, it's all you. So to survive freshman year of high school, I don't know if this was even helpful, but for me, it was finding a group with common interests, finding some friends that enjoyed the same music, because being a musician, I needed to find friends that had that common interest. Maybe you're really into movies. Maybe you're into drama, okay? Find those groups of friends and then move towards that. But then my entire world changed when I moved to Oregon. And that was after my freshman year. We found out we were moving to Oregon, and everything kind of got, Fresh Prince of Bel-Air turned upside down. And I'll be talking about that on Friday, how I survived my last 3 years of high school and what that was like. If you have any questions, anything at all that you want to know about my experience in high school, leave a comment below. Make sure you like and subscribe to this video. Hit that notification bell. And thanks for watching. Okay? Remember, conquistadors, be a better person than you tomorrow. Almost forgot. Be a better person tomorrow than you were today. And I'll see you next time on Round Like Me with Scotty, the Chunky Spaniard. Thanks for watching. Always appreciate it. Bye.